Hi everyone, this is Chen with my week 3 submission. So the type of counselor I aspire to be would be that of professional counselor. As far as my worldview, I'll go into my background a little bit. I do not identify as Christian because I do not subscribe to the doctrine of substitutionary atonement or the bodily resurrection of Christ, which are obviously definitional to be considered Christian. That said, I'm fairly well versed in what I feel like are the important aspects of the Christian faith. I've read the Bible and I count among my closest mentors people who are avowed Christians. I have a profound respect and love for the inspired wisdom of Christianity. I have equal admiration, and my worldview is also informed by other faith traditions like Buddhism, Islam, Judaism. And what I felt most compelling are those aspects that all faith traditions have in common: love, compassion, humility, and a connectedness to others. Because I haven't aligned myself with any single religion, and because of my natural openness to spiritual wisdom, I feel like I'm in a unique and advantageous position where I would be less likely to have conflicts between my practice as professional and my personal spiritual beliefs. Having said that, one of the refrains that keeps getting repeated in our textbook and the ACA code and the code of other divisions is that we are called upon to really know ourselves, to constantly evaluate our own beliefs and biases so that we don't introduce counterproductive elements into our practice. A challenge for me then would be to always be aware of my implicit biases, because if I'm taking pride in how open I am, I need to always make sure that I'm actually being open and not letting blind spots trip me up. As far as my alignment with the integration model and possible challenges, the first thing I'll say is that I'm wholeheartedly of the belief that integrating spiritual and religious considerations into the discipline of counseling is altogether a good thing. In the Entwistle integration model, I would put myself firmly in the allies camp. Just because I'm not Christian per se doesn't mean that I don't have my own spiritual life and the beliefs that come with it. It makes perfect sense to me that psychology/counseling and theology would both have important contributions to the counseling profession. Although it's a more recent development, with integration, we're finally acknowledging that we are all spiritual beings. So part of overall well-being, which is the whole point of counseling after all, is addressing our spiritual side. There was one anecdote in the text that just absolutely floored me, and it serves as a perfect example to me of why integration feels like such an important principle to embrace. It was Dr. Sau Heber's testimonial. If I'm a counselor with certain moral beliefs and my client might be morally challenging for me, the thought might be, well, I have to remember the counselor's mission and the code of ethics and help them anyway. There's sort of that sense of leaving part of yourself outside the counseling room door. But that's not what she said. She basically said that it's not possible to leave part of yourself at the door, nor would she want to, even if she could. Her wisdom was realizing that being a good, ethically sound counselor is to be Christ-like, to listen, to be humble, and to be compassionate. And moreover, as she became more exposed to different worldviews, this only strengthened her Catholic faith. Now, this flows naturally into question 3 about not imposing your personal beliefs in a professional setting. So here, if there's one thing to remember, I think it would be simply that we are not here to judge, and that applies to our lives in general, as well as in our role as counselor. There's no credible interpretation of any faith tradition that puts human judgment above love, compassion, and humility. Judge not, lest ye be judged, says Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. Paul says in Romans 14:13, therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Instead, make up your own mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of a brother or sister. So judgment is condemnation, judgment is contempt. and these are stumbling blocks that Christians are called to renounce. As counselors, imposing your own beliefs and values runs counter to respecting the dignity and promoting the welfare of clients. One last point I'll make about this section of the Code of Ethics is that it tells us to seek training in areas where you're at risk of imposing your own values. One key takeaway from this week's reading is that counselors should be constantly seeking additional information, whether it's through training or consulting with other professionals. As counselors, we will constantly be encountering situations where additional viewpoints would be helpful to make sure that we're practicing effectively and in an ethical way. Coming into this class, I'm not sure I understood the importance of having a professional network that you could just call upon on a regular basis. So this is something that I definitely will make sure is a priority.